Well, glad you joined me today. I'm going to be in Luke 10:18, not my usual place. We've been going through Romans, but this week I've been reading through the book of Luke. It's kind of my annual pilgrimage through the Bible. I try to read through the whole Bible once and then a second time through the New Testament. Every year I've been doing that for a long time. And this time through, I was in Luke 10 and came to verse 18. Let me show you that verse there. Luke 10:18 says, "And he said to them, I watched Satan fall from heaven like lightning." This is Jesus speaking. You see the red letters there. Just caught my attention. I've seen it before. I had questions about what exactly is Jesus talking about here before, but for some reason this time it just caught my attention and drew me in, and I've just been studying it and wanted to share some of the fruits of that study with you. Maybe you've had the same question. Maybe you've looked into it as well. If you have, I'd love to hear what your conclusions you came to. But I just have this question about what is Jesus talking about here? Is he talking about his pre-incarnate witness to Satan's fate that's talked about in the book of Isaiah? Is it a vision he's had during the ministry of the 72 that he sent out, or is it a metaphorical description of their ministry? Or is it something else altogether? So I've had this question, and you'll see me glancing over to the right here because I'm looking at my notes. In fact, I'll just leave them there. First thing we want to do, of course, as we're looking at this a little bit more closely, is look at the context. So let me just back up to the beginning of the chapter a little bit, point some things out as we puzzle our way through this. Verse 1, we see Jesus is appointing the 12, or the 72, and sending them out into places he's planning on visiting. So we know he's going to Israel. His ministry is restricted to Israel, so this is kind of their advanced guard, getting people, letting them know that he's coming and what the message is going to be. Find it interesting that it's 72 or perhaps 70, depending on which version of the Old Testament you're reading. It's a different discussion about that, but we'll come to that some other time. Why 72 or perhaps 70? There's some manuscripts that have 70 rather than 72. So he's sending them out. I think this is part of the context. I call it selected and sent. And then he schools them. He tells them what they are to be doing, gives them a lot of instruction from verses 2 down to verse 16. It says in verse 2 that they are to plead or pray, we could say, for laborers to be sent into the ripe fields of souls to be harvested. Paraphrasing here, just to get the sense of what's going on. Jesus warns them they're going to be as vulnerable as lambs among wolves as he sends them out in verse 3 there. He says in verse 4 that they're not to take anything with them, and they're not to be delayed on their mission. Get out there. Don't equip yourselves. Just get on with the mission. And as you're going out to the places I've sent you, don't stop. Don't be delayed. Move out. Time is short. In other words, time's important. Verse 5, he says they were to depend on the support of others and for their mission, and they were to repay the people who were supporting them by giving them their peace. Peace be unto this house, and if they were not welcomed, their peace would return to them. Another question, what is he talking about when we say your peace? But we'll come to that some other time, perhaps. He said in verses 7 to 8, once they find a place, stay there, don't move, but remain at their host home. And their mission, while they're on site, we could say, is to heal the sick. And he's got a message. The kingdom of God has come near you. I've talked about the kingdom of God before. For a first century Jew, their ears attuned to kingdom, they would be thinking of a ruler, a reign, that he's going to reign for a particular period of time, or a dynastic reign, a realm, some area that he would rule over, and then the people that he was going to be ruling. So they had this in mind of a real kingdom, not a spiritual kingdom, but a real kingdom. And this kingdom has come near to you. Notice he's saying near, not that it's here, but that it's near. Verses 10 and 15, he gives them a warning here. He says, if a city does not receive you, or receive one of the people that are coming, they're to move on. So don't worry about convincing them that you need to be there. It's kind of different from our evangelistic practices, as I understand them today, where we want to go to the door and generate interest, or have a big rally and draw people in, or have a so-called revival ceremony. No, if they're not welcome, they're to move out and move on. They're are to leave a warning that they're rejecting the message about the kingdom, and that there's going to be disastrous judgment coming. There's a result, a consequence of their action. We get to the end here, and Jesus affirmed those who receive them will be credited with receiving him. So receiving one of these representatives of Jesus is just as if they received Jesus himself. And if they reject one of these representatives, it's as if they were rejecting Jesus, and not only Jesus, but the one who sent me. Of course, he's talking about God the Father again. So that brings us to, that was the context. They were selected and schooled, and the third part is the consequence here. First the context, now the consequence in verse 17. The 72 returned with joy. They were pumped. They were excited. Why were they excited? Look what they have to say here. Even the demons are subject to us by your name. What a thrilling ministry that must have been, to roll into these towns and cast out demons and offer the kingdom, and what power they were showing, what effectiveness, spiritual effectiveness. And they were excited to tell Jesus, Lord, even the demons are subject to us in your name. So that brings us to verse 18, which I think is an explanation of the consequences. I think Jesus here is providing an explanation. So let's go down and focus on that. He said to them, I watched Satan fall from heaven like lightning. Well, if we break that down a little bit, so we looked at the context, let's look at the verse, break that down as we try to understand what this means, or at least I'm walking you through how I came to the conclusion, how it means, what it means. Notice those first few words there, and he said to them, this is Luke narrating, right? This is Luke telling you what's happening. And he said to them, this is the explanation. It's a summary report, we could say. He said, I watched, or it could be translated, I was watching, but Jesus said, I watched. It's describing an event in the past from Jesus's point of view. So Jesus, and I think Jesus's point of view is right there in the first century, standing among the 72, hearing what they have to say. And Jesus is responding by saying, I watched Satan fall. He's thinking about something in the past. Now, whether this is Jesus describing a pre-incarnate witnessing of Satan's fall, it's talked about, for example, in Isaiah 14:12. Can't really tell closely here. I think the context suggests that Jesus is referring to what had happened before he sent the 72 out, something that he watched or was a witness to. And he said he fell like lightning from heaven. What's the point of comparison there? Well, it could be its suddenness, the suddenness of Satan's expulsion, the abruptness of it. Could be a reference, the lightning, to a great fire, some kind of bright flash and illumination, or a thunderous sound that accompanied it. But we'll focus on lightning there. I think what he's talking about is quickly, decisively, suddenly. He saw that happen. And the work of the 72 is somehow connected to this, because remember, Jesus is explaining their ministry to them. He's in the section here where he's talking about what happened and why it happened. So I think Jesus is rooting their experience in what he's seen in the past. Then he said, from heaven, which is surprising, right? Well, what is Satan doing in heaven? Well, Job 1 and 2 and Zechariah 3 tell us that he's the accuser of the brethren, that he's before God. Job, we see that in Job, where he is questioning Job's integrity. He's questioning the depths of Job's faithfulness in Job 1 through 3. 1 and 2, I mean. And so we see that he was cast out, I think, from heaven, from before the face of God, accusing the brethren. And to go on here, he said he saw Satan fall. Well, this is an interesting, the way this is made in Greek, arranged in Greek. Fall is, number one, a participle. It's not a verb or a noun. It's something in between. It's a participle. And it's at the very end of the verse. It's not in the middle of the verse as we have it here. We could say something like, I watched from heaven Satan fall. Fall's the end of the word. It's kind of the climax of the verse. Jesus is emphasizing that he fell. So I think, again, this is part of the context of Jesus explaining what's happened here. Let me just go on with that explanation then. Verse 19, I'll come back to 18 and give you my, try to be clear about my interpretation. Verse 19 says, they're to know that Jesus is the one who gave them authority. So, hey, rein it in, guys. Even the demons are subject to you. Jesus is saying, well, listen, this authority you have, I gave you this authority. And they are to know that evil forces are not going to injure them. It says authority over all the power of the enemy, and nothing will injure you. Walk on snakes, walk on scorpions. All authority that I have given you is going to protect you and give you this power. So they're to be joyful in verse 20, not because they have this delegated power that the spirits are subject to them, but rather their joy is to be in the fact that they are known in heaven, that they have an intimate, personal relationship with the Father. That's what it means that their names are known. In the Hebrew culture, first century culture, having a name was to know someone's name, was in some ways to know something about their character. They have a claim on them, and that's what they're to be thankful for. So what we see here is this instruction, the sending, instruction for ministry, successful ministry. Jesus begins to explain about that ministry, saying that what he had witnessed in heaven, and then reminding them that the authority came from him. So what are we to do? What are we to make of this? Well, here's my explanation and kind of a paraphrase of verse 18, trying to bring out some of the meaning of it, we could say that Jesus helped them to put into perspective what they experienced. So when Luke says, and he said to them, he is kind of being the go-between, reporting what the returning 72 said, and Jesus has replied to them. So he said, and he said to them, in other words, Jesus is gonna put into perspective what they just experienced. Jesus then says, he had been a witness to Satan's dethronement in heaven. And I think he's talking about what happened in Isaiah 14:12. Go back and read that background, that he's referring to that he saw Satan cast out and cast down from heaven. And then he goes on to say, when he says, I say Satan fall from heaven like lightning, I think what in the context here, the reason he's saying that is that they were understand that they were continuing that same work, that they were continuing the work of toppling the evil one exorcism at a time, one proclamation of the coming kingdom at a time. So Jesus is putting this in perspective of what they're doing. He has sent them out. He has authority. He has power. He's seen Satan fall from heaven. And they are at work toppling his kingdom. They are agents of Jesus and agents of the one who sent Jesus, agents of the follower. So they're like the first century 007, subverting the evil kingdom. So how do we apply this? What does this mean for you and I as we read this? Well, a couple things, I think. First of all, we see that Jesus was and is and will continue to be in the business of overcoming the power of the evil one, overcoming the power of our enemy, of bringing Satan down is what he's doing. His work, Jesus's work in this, began in eternity past. That's what we see in Isaiah. It continued into his day. I think it continues in our day and will continue into the future in Revelation 20, where Satan is first bound, then released, and then again conquered and cast into eternal lake of fire. So we can say that today, the time we live in, Satan is alive and active on the earth. 2 Corinthians 4:4 says he is the god of this world. Galatians 1:4 says we live in an evil age. So we are alive and active on earth where Satan is. But, and this is a big but, as followers, we are invited to join the battle against Satan. This is our sanctification. This is Jesus enabling us and empowering us in this war. It's a difficult fight, but a fight we can win. And it's a fight not so much against the world, but think of it as a fight against yourself, against myself. This is sanctification. Begins with us, works its way out into the church, and from the church works its way out into those spheres that the Lord has put us in. So we're not among those 72 being sent as an advance party to these cities in Israel, but we are among the elect of God who are being transformed by the Spirit of Christ in us as we do battle with Satan in our own soul. This is our sanctification. And as the overflow of that sanctification affects the people around us, other believers and non-believers, brings them conviction. So that's my understanding of this, that Jesus is letting us know, he's letting these 72 know, that they are standing in the stream of victory, the stream of warfare that God is waging against Satan. and that you and I together today continue in that stream. So I hope this was encouraging for you. I hope it was educational. Hope it edifies you and gives you the confidence knowing that the Lord is equipping you for not only salvation, He's not only saved you, but He has sanctified you. And part of that sanctification is you're doing battle in your soul with Satan, and God is putting you on display to see the work that's being done. So God bless you, brothers and sisters, and let me know what you think. Am I way off here? Is this conclusion you came to a long time ago? And let me know your opinion. I'd love to hear it. God bless you.